Have you ever noticed how the most powerful figures in history seem to have a knack for staying out of the spotlight? Kings who remain hidden behind palace walls, billionaires who rarely speak, and leaders who disappear at their peak. What's behind this strategy? It's not arrogance, nor is it just a mystery for the sake of mystery. There's a method to the madness, and it all comes down to one word: strategy. What if I told you that every time you make yourself too available or too visible, you actually lose power without even realizing it? Today, we're unpacking why being absent, silent, and scarce can be far more powerful than being present, loud, and constantly reachable. From Machiavelli to modern psychology, from emperors to CEOs, you're about to see how disappearing at the right moment can help build influence, attraction, and yes, even fear. Hit subscribe and stay with me until the end, because this insight could completely change how you move through the world. Niccolo Machiavelli famously said in The Prince that a man who is esteemed is not easily conspired against. But the key to attaining that esteem, Machiavelli pointed out, does not come from being constantly available or always within reach. Instead, it comes from distance, being just out of reach, from the sense of someone who is missed. Machiavelli understood that rulers had to carefully manage their appearances. The idea was not to vanish entirely, but to be seen sparingly, only at carefully chosen moments. For him, overexposure wasn't a sign of strength, it was a liability. Constant visibility weakens authority. It strips away intrigue, invites scrutiny, and dulls influence. Familiarity doesn't just erode mystery, it breeds contempt. But this concept didn't start with Machiavelli. Centuries earlier, Lao Tzu wrote in the Tao Te Ching, "The sage stays behind, thus he is ahead." His philosophy wasn't about force or assertion, it was about subtlety, restraint, and quiet influence. In his world, power wasn't loud. It didn't draw attention to itself. It was felt more than it was seen. The less you do, the more gets done. The less you show up, the more you are remembered. It's a paradox, but it still holds true today. By withdrawing, you create pull. By holding back, you draw people in. Stillness isn't passive, it's strategic. Modern psychology backs this ancient wisdom. The scarcity principle, articulated by Robert Cialdini, shows that we value things more when they're rare. Human beings are wired to chase after what's slipping away, to want what they can't easily have. We romanticize distance. We obsess over the unavailable. The person who is always around, always saying yes, gets taken for granted. The one who occasionally disappears, however, becomes a magnet of attention. They gain gravity. They turn into a question mark, and that question fuels curiosity. The unknown captivates us far more than the overexposed. You've likely felt this in your own life. That friend who's always there, always ready to help or hang out, eventually their efforts are no longer noticed. Gratitude fades into expectation. Or consider the coworker who's perpetually online, always responding instantly. Over time, you stop respecting their time. But the person who occasionally says no, who sets boundaries, who isn't constantly available, that person's attention feels like a choice, not an obligation. That's where respect begins. That's where power starts to take shape, not in presence, but in purposeful absence. Let's look back in history for a moment. In the 17th century, King Louis XIV of France mastered this principle better than almost anyone. Known as the Sun King, he made himself the center of court life, with the nobility orbiting around him. But while his presence was felt everywhere, he himself was seen sparingly. His schedule was a public spectacle, yet audiences with him were rare and tightly controlled. His silence made his words matter. His distance made his attention a prized commodity. Nobles obsessed over glimpses, gestures, and tiny signs of favor. By appearing less, not more, he built an empire of influence. Even in the brutal logic of warfare, absence had its power. Subutai, the Mongol general and one of Genghis Khan's greatest strategists, was famous for disappearing, with his army vanishing completely from the landscape. His enemies never knew when or where he'd strike next. This uncertainty was his weapon. It wasn't just his tactics that terrified his enemies, it was the dread of the unknown. Subutai didn't just win battles, he created myth. His power wasn't just in what he did, but in what people imagined he could do. That's the power of invisibility. Now let's contrast that with Napoleon Bonaparte, a man of immense charisma and military skill. After his first exile, he returned to France with dramatic flair. His second reign, however, the famous 100 Days, fizzled out quickly. Why? Because he was seen too soon. The people hadn't had time to forget his flaws. He returned before absence could transmute his defeat into legend. Instead of inspiring awe, he reminded people of his reality. He lost not because he was weak, but because he was too familiar. Reverence requires distance. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this danger as well. He said, "He who fights with monsters should see to it that he himself does not become a monster." But more subtly, he hinted at another truth. Too much exposure to greatness diminishes it. The more you see something, even something extraordinary, the more ordinary it becomes. Icons lose power when they're always in your feed. Even gods, to stay divine, must retreat. Mystery isn't just aesthetic, it's functional. It keeps reverence alive. Think of the artist who vanishes after releasing one unforgettable album, the lover who pulls back instead of texting constantly, the leader who pauses before speaking. In every case, what is withheld becomes powerful. The silence between gestures, the space between appearances, that's where tension builds. A study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology confirmed this. People find others more attractive when they're slightly less available. Not distant enough to seem uninterested, but just unavailable enough to provoke curiosity. That hint of uncertainty. That's the spark. Even animals understand this concept. The alpha wolf doesn't constantly bark, growl, or fight. It doesn't need to. Its power isn't in noise, it's in presence. It shows up at the right moment, disrupts the pattern, and then recedes. Its silence is a signal. Its restraint amplifies its authority. That kind of control, appearing only when necessary and never when expected, that's what makes others fall in line. Power isn't volume, it's impact, and the less you use it, the more it grows. Here's a more poetic example. In ancient Japan, the samurai embraced yugen, a deep, subtle kind of grace. It wasn't about showing off skill or dominating attention. It was about what was left unsaid, unseen, and unflaunted. A great samurai didn't have to prove himself with every motion. He let his aura do the talking. He let mystery sharpen his edge. In that culture, presence was dangerous, but absence that was sacred. Absence created myth. Fast forward to today, and the pattern holds true. Tech giants like Elon Musk disappear for weeks only to return with a single tweet that sends markets into chaos. Beyoncé drops off the radar, and then out of nowhere an album, a visual masterpiece, no announcement, just impact. That contrast, the quiet followed by a storm, is what keeps them larger than life. They don't chase attention, they orchestrate it. That's the playbook. Even in personal relationships, the same dynamic applies. Text too often and you flatten your presence. Be too available and your value seems automatic. But give space, create some friction, and something changes. Interest sharpens. Longing grows in the gap between messages. You become something to reach for, not something that's always there. Desire feeds on absence. That's not manipulation, it's human nature. Let's be clear, absence isn't the same as abandonment. It's not ego or cruelty, it's intentional space, a deliberate pause that lets your presence gain weight. It's saying, "You don't get all of me, not for free." That's not coldness, that's clarity. That boundary isn't a wall to keep people out. It's a throne to remind them of your worth. That's not arrogance, that's gravity. So how do you put this into action? Start by reclaiming your time. Say no more often. Let some text sit unread. Don't reply just because you can. Don't explain every move. Skip the party once in a while. Let people notice your absence. Let them feel the gap, that tension. That's power forming. That's silence. That's your presence being amplified. Let them ask, where is he or why hasn't she responded? Because in that moment, you've flipped the dynamic. You've become the one who's chased, not the one who's chasing. You've become rare. And rarity in any age is priceless. Don't just show up, arrive. And when you do, make it count. Speak less. Move with calm. Let your presence feel like an event. This isn't about playing games. It's about self-worth. You don't owe everyone constant access. Value your presence like a rare currency. If you're always available, your presence becomes cheap. But if you're rare, strategically rare, your presence becomes a prize. And here's the truth. Power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't beg to be seen. Power waits. Power lets the world come to it. So stop being so easy to reach. Step back, create space, make your presence felt by making it rare. And when you do appear, own it. People don't chase what's always in front of them. They chase what they might lose. This is the Cypheria channel. If you got value from this, hit subscribe, drop a like, and share it with someone who needs to start pulling back. Sometimes the most powerful move is disappearing. Thank you for watching.